In his technology book, Daniel Hedrick stated, in the 15th century, Spanish and Portuguese shipbuilders combined the best features of galleys and cogs to produce a craft called a caravel, which was able to navigate any ocean in the world. Its hull had a skeleton of beams and ribs on which planks were nailed edge to edge, making it sturdy yet inexpensive. Beside the mainsail, it had a foremast carrying a square sail and a mizzenmast at the stern with a lateen sail. The addition of a sternpost rudder in the 13th century made it maneuverable in any wind. Portuguese, Prince Henry the Navigator, financed Vasco da Gama and Magellan, who used the caravel. Larger versions, the carrack and galleon, were added to European success for the next several centuries. Columbus used both the caravel and carrack for his voyages to discover and first colonize the New World. Western European countries used different tactics to exploit much of the world, usually to the detriment of the indigenous populations. The Chinese invented gunpowder during the Middle Ages using sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, which is potassium nitrate. They figured out how to cast iron cannonballs and barrels. The technology traveled west and used by the Ottoman Turks to conquer much of the Arab world and into Europe. Gunpowder was described by Englishman Roger Bacon in 1216. The key point was the Western Europeans developed cannons for ships, including the Portuguese caravels exploring the Atlantic beginning in the late 15th century. Portugal wanted to trade for spices from East Asia, but faced competition, including Muslim traders. No problem, the Portuguese had the guns and no hesitation to use them against pirates, but also any non-cooperative ports or foreign traders. They captured Goa, Malacca, and Hormuz. They were in the Far East to stay. Columbus expected to sail west to India and the Spice Islands. There was a new world in the way, which worked out for the Spanish, but a disaster for the indigenous population. He brought various foods, starting the Columbian exchange that would make food available worldwide. Add the conquest and slavery, then mass production expanded exponentially. Columbus started it, but colonists flocked to Mexico to make their fortunes. Among them was Hernando Cortez, a notary with organization skills and capable of brutality. He made himself a conquistador and led an expedition to attack the rich Aztec Empire. Thanks in part to smallpox, he conquered Mexico City and had access to gold and silver, then turned the indigenous people into near slaves to make the conquistadors and Spain rich. It worked for Cortez, but not Spain. Charles V was King of Spain and also Holy Roman Emperor. He used every ounce of metal on his unending wars in Central Europe. Neither Spain nor Mexico developed the necessary rule of law, property rights, or institutional framework for long-term success. Sailors generally did not survive to retirement age. Ship conditions and food were poor to horrible. A successful voyage meant returning home with spice riches and with perhaps half the sailors surviving. Failure meant they didn't make it home. The brutal sea captains used the sadism on trading partners, merchant rivals, plus fending off pirates, except when they were the pirates. They took over ports of call, often expanding to what became entire countries, beginning with Spain and Portugal, which added Brazil to their conquest list. Holland, England, and France were later arrivals. Many high-priced imports were foods that grew only in the tropics, with sugar at the top of the list. Take over tropical islands and other lands, import African slaves, then grow and refine sugarcane for all the profits. This also required fending off the other brutal Europeans, plus many land-changing hands, common around India and across the Caribbean. This was one form of expansion of the Columbian exchange. Farm products could be grown around the world. Old world livestock thrived in the New World. The used variety of foods of the New World, like corn and potatoes, was transferred around the Old World. Major developments starting at the end of the Middle Ages were key to the great divergence of Western Europe. Next time on Food History and Mystery.